Welcome to PTG TV. This is your host, Antonio Hicks, and welcome to my first in-person studio audience show.
But thank you all again for showing up, and I want to thank them again, especially coming out of MacTown, where I am from, born and raised. So anybody coming out of Macon, Georgia, I'm going to always shout them out all day, every day, especially Georgia natives. So yeah, give it up for them one more time. My first guest coming up, but before we get to that, to talk about Mr. Kennis Clark, I want to touch a little bit on, what how petty our government is and how because John and I, we joke about this all the time. So it's taking 7 days, because the purpose going behind him too, why he's coming up. It takes 7 days to shoot down a balloon. And, we got a radical Christians out here, which we Christians over here too, but I'm like, it takes 7 days to completion. They pissed off about that, but then, we go and shoot down the balloon in 1 day. And they was like, oh, why y'all shooting down balloons now? I'm like, well, why not? And then to make it so bad how petty they are, we was like, oh, it's an unknown object on top of it too. So I was like, oh, we're shooting down Bipple. And if any of y'all know the old Dave Chappelle, anybody know Dave Chappelle show? Oh, so y'all remember the episode? You know Dave Chappelle?
Yeah, it's one of my spirit guides.
So yeah, that's how petty our government is. That was pretty funny. But yeah, coming onto the stage now is Mr. Kennis Clark, who's coming out of Long Island, New York. He's an independent recording artist. He's been recording for a little bit over, since 2014. Started off in R&B, and now he's gotten into the gospel scene. So he's coming down here to Atlanta, and I love the music that he's producing and what he's creating, and I'm interested to hear more about him. So welcome onto the stage, Mr. Kennis Clark.
I just flew in from the Southwest. Too many nights been gone like this, flown like this. I guess I'm just here to do my best.
So welcome onto the show, man. I thank you for accepting the invite.
Of course, man. Thank you, man. It's always a blessing when, platforms like yourself just, reach out and want to hear more. I love to share, man, and be a part of it, so.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I do, pride myself on this podcast and this radio show itself too, is like I like to hear people's story. Like people want to get interested in individuals once they've blown up.
Yeah. But
they'll never really talk to them like when they're like getting started off.
In the building. Uh-huh.
And that's why, for me, when it comes to PTG and the things I like to do here on this show and this broadcast is I like to hear people's struggles, because we always see the highlight of everything once people have made it big, but we don't really see that process what we're going through, especially on the days of social media. Mm-hmm. So on social media, we highlight when we're on planes, everybody getting turned up, but you don't see when the nights they crying because the bank account real low.
I'm so angry.
They're right. So yeah, I'm glad you accepted. So yeah, welcome on again.
Man. For sure, thank you.
Welcome, man. So I know that you were from Long Island, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a small city between you and me. I grew up in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So how was the transition? Because I know that you started in music. So what would you start? Would you start like your inspiration in Long Island, or through your travels around the country?
Everything started in Long Island. So I'm from a small town called Roosevelt, Long Island. It was a mile square radius. Started out in high school, actually before that, I was always into music. I was that kid that, walked around with a Walkman. I got the new albums playing all the time. And then in high school, I really got into, showing my peers, the things I was passionate in when it came to music, like singing, dancing, things like that. Now, I didn't grow up in like a Christian home. Like, it wasn't like, my dad was a PK or my mom was like a first lady or anything like that, but she always sowed seeds. So I knew the difference between, what's good, what isn't, what I should be listening to, what I probably shouldn't. But, I'm still growing and learning more about just myself and my journey. So, out of Long Island, New York, I started working at a studio in the Bronx. A friend of mine,
How old were you?
I'll say about like 19 after like my
Okay.
first year of college.
Awesome.
Yeah, graduated high school, went to college, and then that's when I started to really explore writing music and actually like singing. You know what I mean?
When did you know you had a voice though?
So interestingly enough, in high school, I say like 11th grade, like I started showing
At a talent show?
at a
Or you trying to
talent
just
show.
like pick up girls? I'm sorry. 'Cause I know his wife is out here.
Yeah, so it was like at a talent show.
Okay.
But I didn't know how to take it seriously. So I was for lack of better terms, I sound crazy. Like pitches was everywhere. I sound really, really bad. Yeah, it was really bad.
Hey, we all, no matter what you do.
It was terrible, man. I remember we had an audition for that talent show, and I remember I was singing and I was going through the set that I had, and people were just looking like they didn't know whether to clap or to boo. They were just like, "Is this going to be a good show, or is it? We don't know. We're just going to have to see what happens." But from that talent show that I actually, sang and performed, I got a lot of great feedback. So I was like, okay, this is something I really can see myself doing. But then again, after, that first year of college, I started to take it seriously with actually like writing my own songs and putting together pieces. And, I worked with a couple of groups at the time. And, I was that guy that kind of hid behind everyone because everyone had these crazy vocal styles. But then I had opportunity to branch out and go solo. And then that's when I was really just on my R&B journey.
Okay. So what kind of R&B did you start off with? Like, what was your style? Like Chris Brown?
I was trying to be Trey Songz, a little Trey Songz.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you got to look for it. You got. The fit, everything. So yeah, I can see that.
That was my vibes. I was trying to do, that those type of things. I'm still a young man. I'm still feeling my oats. I'm still. Just how.
I don't know. I mean, your wife is here. I don't know if you want to tell them that. So
it's called finding your voice.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of the lane. But again, I was working with like rap artists. You know what I mean? Nothing against hip hop artists out there, but they didn't understand the language of like singing and. They'll say, Kennis, do that thing you did. And I'm like, what's the thing? That cry, that, do that. And I'm like, nah,
for like
I don't know what you mean. For like the hooks, I was always the hook guy. But I say I really started to grow my artistry when I had an opportunity to go to California. From me being a solo artist in New York, I ended up getting with another group, and these guys were just like really, really good. They really helped me to understand, vocals and recording and actually creating, really quality R&B music. And I had opportunity to move to California to work with them. But we all know groups don't last at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got different egos and things like that. So 2000. So go ahead.
In the midst of all that, when did you meet your wife?
Years later, I met her.
She cheating hard, so I mean, you must have sang to her.
Man, it was years later. Actually, I met her when I was still in Los Angeles. I was, still solo at that time, both in music and, in my dating life. And she was just fire. So we connected years prior to our first engagement. And then I ended up realizing like her posts and pics started popping up a lot. And at this time, it was.
Oh, she's an influencer too.
Oh, there you go.
Man, I don't know what. So a friend of mine that lived in Cali that shot a lot of my work out there, like a lot of my videos, it was through him that we were following each other. He had a project that he shot, and she happened to be a part of it. So, for years we were following each other, and then I just started like seeing her. And interesting enough, at this time I was just praying. I did pray for you. I prayed about you and for you. But
no, he said about you.
I prayed about you.
For a lot of things.
Yeah. So you can imagine just like the journey and everything. Like I've come into contact with different people that just weren't right for me. So I remember I told the Lord, I prayed and I said, the next person that I decide to, devote my time to and my interest in, I just pray that I know immediately. I wanted to be very intentional. So I remember she started popping up on the page, and she just had this thing about her, man, classy, cool, artsy, she loved the Lord too. And we started interacting, and then, I slid in the DM. Oh, we slid in each other's DMs. And then from there, we just, had great contact. So from Los Angeles, we were actually long distance for about a year. And then that's when.
So she was like your transition. She helped you transition from Los Angeles.
Yeah, she was a big part of it.
Triangle from New York to L.A. to now to Atlanta.
Yeah, she was a huge part of that journey.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And with the music, I've noticed like you mentioned creating videos and all. There's some serious production value there, and there's like you got dancers and all kinds of things going on with the Good Boy and Forever and Bout Time. Like, how do you get involved and find these connections? Was that New York or L.A. and getting all these folks to help you produce all your music?
Yeah, so moving to Los Angeles was a real pivotal part of the journey in the career. That's when I started to get more exposure as an artist, as a writer. Working with bigger teams, like you saw some of those videos. They were really really high production. Yeah. Prince Dominic, he's responsible for some of those. And so basically with that, it was a real big focus on like trying to be this next artist. So we tried to make sure everything was big, everything looked great, everything, because I'm also around, these really high, I'd rather say these are people that were in the industry and they kind of knew like a formula to what it would take to get to like a record label, like, a big record label.
They kind of had the pathway.
You kind of, yeah. So, you had the production had to be great. The music had to be great. Actually had an opportunity to be signed to Universal at one point. But at the same time, morally, my life was in disarray.
Okay.
Very early before I met my wife. And this was a pivotal time, too, because I've had the opportunity to do like shows, and I know what it felt like to be in a room with some of these big, artists and, people that you probably could recognize. Mm-hmm. I had those opportunities to sit at the table at a big label because of the music I was able to create. I worked in certain studios with some of these guys, but at the same time, it just wasn't the path that God had for me.
So when did you start seeing yourself like making money off of it?
Well, to be honest, man, as an artist, you don't make a ton of money from being an artist unless you're with the label, unless you just got, a lot of those big checks come from like tours, big tours. I didn't get the opportunity to really hop on a big tour and be a part of anything like that. But that Universal deal did fall through, and then I had to sit back and say, okay, like again, back to those seeds my mom sowed. Like I'm like, all right, God, like. You've brought me this far. They would say, he's not going to take you this far to leave you and things like that. But I'm like, there's something not, the math isn't mathing right now. Like, I've come to the table and, you closing the door. What's happening?
What year was this though?
Huh?
What year was this?
This is like 2016, 2015, 16.
So social media was just
just blowing up.
Okay.
This is where you didn't post authenticity on your social media. You post, the picture with these people or the event. It was very much like, fake it till you make it, or you know what I mean.
And you were about in LA for about 2 years at that time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just very, very interesting because I just thought that I thought I was going to be, this guy now, right? But like I said, my life was just crazy. I was doing things and being this person that, I don't think God wanted me to be. So I think that the deals stopped, or the deals were taken back, because if I would have gone forward, who knows where I would be right now? Who knows where my faith would be right now?
What was the transition between R&B going into gospel?
Right. So at this point, it was this one story. So I had a friend. He was a songwriter friend of mine, and he also was a drummer at this church. He used to always say, "Yo, Kennis, you come to this church." And I was like, "I ain't going to that church." He's like, "Hey, come to this church." So this one Sunday, he called me because he got into a little argument with his girl at the time, and he was like, "Yo, Ken, I need a ride to church, man. I need a ride to church, bro."
Wait, it was his girl's car?
Yeah, I think he
Yeah. So I need to ride to church, bro. So I said, okay. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm just gonna go, because he gonna need a ride back home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can't just drop him there and then think I'm just gonna.
I mean, it's the Lord's house. Somebody might bless him.
So I said, okay, I'm not gonna just leave you at the church. So I went to church, and that day, like, the Holy Spirit just wrecked me. And it was more like, okay, I need to find my pathway back to the things that, or back to my own relationship with God, and being able to identify him as an adult and be able to connect with God that way. So it was just a pruning process, though, of just me going to church, connecting with the brothers there, really stripping away a lot of the things that I thought were cool, thought were good about, or thought were ways I should live. But it was always that question, like, okay, Lord, so I'm devoting my life back to you, but what about this music thing? what can I do with this?
So the pains that you were going through, you think it was some childhood like trauma, some things that you endured growing up?
What do you mean?
Where you saying like you was like dealing with a whole bunch of stuff, like you was going in the wrong direction when R&B.
Oh no, I was partying. I was turned up. I was in Hollywood doing everything.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
So
what I'm
like
saying.
in like your house, did your parents have y'all like locked down?
Nah, see, that's the thing. We weren't locked down. Our parents did let us experiment with things, or I'm not trying to put my parents out there like that.
No.
It's like
We weren't sheltered.
Yeah.
I can see where your personality, especially the transition. You went from L.A. You got you're finding your music voice in New York.
Yeah.
And then you travel across the country from East Coast to West Coast. And then you're in L.A. for a couple of years. And was there kind of basically a separation between the music and yourself? And then it's a matter of like the story where you realize, all right, I drove my buddy to church. I found myself. Now, how can I bring my music along with me? Is that kind of the way it is?
It was a separation, because the type of music that I was still creating just didn't reflect who I was becoming.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like, what do I do? And my idea of like gospel, Christian, or faith-based music at that time was like I either had to be, an amazing gospel vocalist, or I had to, hop into this like Christian hip-hop lane, and that really wasn't my styles. So I was discouraged for a while about the call. I was like, I don't know if I should do it. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
But I remember just praying one day, and I remember just God speaking to me about just being myself, and it's really about the message on the music. So I can still have some of these cool sounds and vibes, but it's really about what are you hearing on these songs. And then that created like a space for me to still put out music, put out records. But now it's a different tone and vibe. Of course I lost a lot of like friends and like people that were like, supporting, like, we don't want to, do that.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that.
But then I released my first project called AWOL, which is my first EP as a Christian faith-based artist. And I acronymed it for Another Way of Living. So not only was it AWOL in the term of, leaving formation and, the whole construct of R&B at the time, but it was also like, this is also a different way we're going to live. And the things that I was learning, I wanted to infuse them into the music to inspire others, if that makes sense.
So how has it been since you are here in Atlanta now?
Yeah, so I came to Atlanta like pre-pandemic. So literally,
you're welcome.
Yeah,
it was pre-pandemic. Even the journey here was just more like connecting with people who can, understand the music in the lane a little bit more. But it was really pre-pandemic, so it was a bit of a struggle to connect and find a community of artists that, understand the assignment rather. Connecting with cpeople that would be even open to hearing this type of music. Atlanta is a really innovative place too. A lot of sounds have come from Atlanta. So I just saw it as maybe this door that's opening here in Atlanta is just a place where I can continue to grow and flower out, what God's doing to me with my music. And then of course connect and build community around that to be impactful.
So now were y'all married then, or y'all were like?
Nah, we weren't married. We weren't married yet. So we were engaged. We definitely engaged in 2019. But yeah, so we were still growing and building our relationship as well. We got married October 2020. So 10/10/2020 was our marriage date.
So how was that transition for the both of you all? Like especially your fiance at the time, like coming here.
Yeah. So. It was, we spoke about it, definitely, I said, all right, I'm going to go and we're going to see how this is, because we were long distance. But again, I was very intentional. So I think the transition was needed. It definitely was needed because, we got to be around each other. We got to see each other.
From long distance to pandemic together.
Yeah. Well, it was, yeah. Well, we had a few months before we were like, really locked in. But yeah, I think it was just more of that dating process and just learning who she is and learning, okay, God, well, like this is the purpose for our relationship. Like there's something there. So I told myself, man, if I get here and she start acting strange in 6 months, You know what I'm saying? That's just it. It ain't the right vibe. But yeah,
You didn't act strange.
she didn't act strange at all. She was amazing. She was amazing. So, and plus she's a big help even nowadays in my artistry. You know, it's like we're a team. She understands sometimes, you know, the directions I want to go. We're definitely like legit a team. You know what I mean? So, super great helpmate. You know, amazing. You know, her ideas are just in another vibe. We actually have a song together too. So
she can sing.
She vibey.
She was like, oh,
yeah.
That's awesome. So what is there that much? What's the difference in support from like you've been like kind of three very different music cultures?
Yeah.
New York and LA are two almost. They're very cultural and motivated, but
Yeah.
almost opposites.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference in support from New York to LA, and now you're currently in Atlanta?
I'd say, you know, I still have support from people back in New York. The support in New York was, I'm trying to find the word for it, but it was.
They've got thick skins. I'm from there, man.
Yeah. You know, there was a few people from my hometown that support, you know, and there was some that just didn't. You know, it is what it is. Out in Los Angeles, the support was definitely grand when I was doing secular music.
Right.
You know, it was definitely like a bigger support system there. But then then a lot of people from that support system still kind of live on in the supporters list because they also have an understanding and appreciation for music. So, you know, they understand and appreciate what I do, and, you know, they can connect with it to an extent. You know, and then here in Atlanta, now tapping into, you know, just more of the Christian community, the support is definitely a lot different.
That's what I was going to ask you too, because I'm like, have you seen it grow more? Because now you're talking about we have like Maverick City music, we have Hillsong was popular back then, and then you have elevation worship and stuff too.
Yeah.
It's like really popular. So how have you seen it transition from R&B going over into like Christian gospel? Have you gotten more support, like a bigger community?
Yeah, so the community I feel like is slowly evolving and growing. It's still a very new sound to the space, you know, like, because I remember I had a post one time and I put a tag of Christian R&B, and this was years ago, someone was like, you can't put this is not of God and all of that.
I don't know, because you had Lecrae out there too, so it's like,
you know what I mean? I think right now the lane is definitely growing. There are people, you know, understanding more about it. They're more open to different genres of faith-based music, so they are more apt to, you know, listen and support. But it's still a niche within a niche. You know what I mean? Because you have like gospel music, then you have, you know, Christian contemporary, which is like a Maverick City.
Yeah, but you coming down here into like the heart of the South. You know, a lot of us down here, Baptist and Pentecostal and stuff. Yeah. So we used to like hymn books.
Yeah. It's, you know, the sound is progressive, but I feel like people, you know, kind of want something new.
Yeah.
You know, where I am just now, I'm understanding that, you know, living your life as a believer is rounded. It's not just one or two things that always happen all the time. So your approach to music and how you are authentic with your art and what you share should feel the same way. You know what I mean? That's something that I've recently discovered just about, you know, my comfortability in creating. Because as an artist, as Christian or a Christian artist, whatever way you want to, you know, play it, people are going to get different things, and they're going to see God in different ways in your life. I'll give you an example. So I wrote a song. So I never met my biological father. So I never met him. And, you know, this is something that periodically throughout life, you know, I would think about him and, you know, kind of cycle through different emotions about him. And in 2021, I wrote a song about just how I felt about those feelings. And I released it as a faith-based artist. I didn't give it a resolve and try to circle it right back around to God healing me, because I wasn't healed for it.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I was authentic to that time and that moment, and I released it that way. And it was received. So from that point, it was like, hey, like, you can still, like your life is gonna show people what you believe in. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna put out a song about stripping and you're going spending money, being boastful. Look at my cars, look at all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna create music for the soul as you're connecting to my soul, as you're connecting to me, and as God is inspiring me.
And it sounds like you found like your voice too. Like it's not like like you're not gonna do the stripper thing. Because it's not who you are. That's not.
It's not who I am, right?
And so like, but also you were allowed to. It sounds like you're more inspired to be salt pepper the music with your actual own life, which is true.
Yeah.
And also that you're kind of expand your sound from just traditional gospel to like throwing some electronica in there and throwing some Christian contemporary in there.
Yeah, exactly. Because coming down to Georgia, it was like, all right, man, you better sound like this. Because this is you in Atlanta. You got it.
That's one thing. Here's the thing. Yeah. This is the way you sound.
Yeah, this is Atlanta, so you need to sound like this.
Okay.
But I found myself just being very like, just counterproductive. Like I found myself just kind of falling out of inspiration. And it was one conversation. I did have my wife, and she was like, you have more to talk about. Your story and journey there's a lot that this, that the PTG podcast right now isn't going to hear and understand. But she was like, hey, like people are inspired by your story, so tell the story how it is.
Now, why do you think, especially as a believer, people shy away from that? Because the only time we want to have a testimony is before a big congregation.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we shy away from like telling people the truth and our true authentic selves.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like when you say that, I think about every day when you see somebody and you're like, hey man, how you doing? And they're like, fine, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. You text your friend, what's up, bro? How you been? I'm good, man. God's good. But like you got fires going on in your home right now and no one knows anything. Your emotional state, you don't know, like you just got finished, crying your eyes out or yelling or you know what I mean? Like, I feel like just as people, we kind of, that vulnerability, we don't really show or display it. So just imagine even more in your music, or even, as a believer, you might have people that, will share some of those things, maybe like in a church setting. But I don't know. I just think that we just need to be more vulnerable and more honest. Just being more honest about how you feel, more honest about your experiences, more honest about the blessings too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think once we could do that as just people and understanding that, hey Jersey, I might say, how you doing, man? You might say, I can't, man, I'm not in it today. Yeah. Like that's it. There's like this wave of mental health awareness that's happening that I think just people need to really understand.
And it's about also like what you're saying, me being honest about actually wanting to know how you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a two-way street where we have to it's a two-way street where we have to be honest, more show our vulnerability. But also, if we're asking somebody what they're doing, be interested and be like, how can I help, or how can I make your day better?
Yeah. Because I think if you're asking somebody that, you need to be honest about it too. Do you really want to hear how their day is going?
Most people are looking for fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I hope you say you're okay, because I
don't want to be bothered.
I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be responsible for how you feel after your conversation with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've also found like being authentic even with prayer too. Like sometimes we think God is just like so far and we have to pray in like Christianese and say these words and these terms for him to hear us, because these are things we've learned. I'll be honest, there was a time last summer that I was screaming, and the Lord, he forgave me, but I was screaming top of my lungs, almost losing my voice because of something that I was dealing with. And I was authentic in that, because I feel like God wants you to be, he knows already.
Yeah.
Even wherever you're at in your faith walk, like he knows and understands. So I think just being authentic in that space too will also help you to be authentic, just in everyday life. And it's still a struggle, because sometimes you got to decipher, okay, should I really be talking about this right now?
It's like, I don't even want to be honest with myself. I'm having a bad day and I don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
Oh, I have plenty of those.
Yeah.
So in your walk, like now that you're growing, like you're getting popular and stuff now too. How was it with your wife being on the scene too? Because one thing I do find a struggle with, because I love my wife to death. Shout out to Miss Hicks that's over there in the back, my chocolate chips. So, you know, when I was running for office and doing other things in the community, like people would come up and almost like step in front of her and push her out of the way. How has been your experience, like y'all as a couple, now that people know who you are and your face is out there, when people coming to meet you?
Yeah.
Are they introducing themselves to your wife too, or are they kind of just pushing her out the way and what is your response
Well,
to that?
first off, she's Jamaican, so they're not pushing
Oh,
nobody
she's Jamaican.
out the way.
Yeah, yeah, well, never mind, I'm sorry. That ain't happening.
I think for our dynamic, it's really about boundaries. You know, sometimes I have a lot of like calls and different like sessions and different things throughout the week or whatever's happening, and we just had a conversation about like, okay, like this time, no one should be able to reach you after this time. You know what I mean? Even if it's important, like you have to make sure you draw that boundary with family.
Right.
The good thing is like I'm not in spaces where like she would never have to worry about anyone else. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like that R&B dude serenading of a crowd, you know, a crowd full of women, right? Single women. That's not
Single strippers.
single strippers. You know, that's not, you know, the spaces that I'm in. So that's something we don't have to worry about. And plus, you know, just my wife. But I think, again, just like boundaries, like, okay, like this is time that I'm spending with my wife. You know what I mean? So, sorry, bro, but this meeting's going to have to wait until tomorrow morning.
Now, what was your experience to transition over to like The Voice? Like, what was your experience trying out for The Voice, and did you actually make it on?
So The Voice, I did backgrounds for The Voice.
Okay.
I was a part of the backgrounds for College Aid, which she's an amazing vocalist. So with that was just through a mutual connection that I had out there that basically, you know, they knew about the music and they called me on for the show, which was a great experience. Yeah.
So what did it do for you as far as like notoriety and people knowing who you are?
I think it was really great to share. Like, hey, I'm on The Voice, man. I'm singing.
That's
you
what
know,
they get. That's what you
BGVs.
get. They can tell you know, tell people that you're on The Voice. That's it.
I was on The Voice that season. It was
that's
great.
cool.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I was able to support these artists on The Voice. It was really cool out there. But yeah, it was nothing that like just ramped me up. Oh, I'm sorry, I keep hitting the mic. That just like, oh, you're blowing up. It was just more like a great thing to experience and to share with my people.
And are you that kind of job? Are you like tradition to like to stay there, or are you encouraged to go out and maybe if you meet other artists that are even on the show to go with them in certain events and help them out in different type of like live events? Do you do that, or is it just strictly just the show, pretty much? So, I mean, every opportunity, you're connecting with people, and one thing I can say about myself, like, I'm a connector. Like, once I build it up to approach and, like, have a conversation, be authentic how everything's happening, like, I like to connect with people. So, some of those relationships, you still have, you kind of build, you kind of support different projects that they have going on. Because I tell you, like, everyone that I sang with, on that show, they're all artists in their own right, and they're all still producing amazing music. Okay. So, you create some of those relationships.
So what's next for you now?
So right now, I've been really low-key and kind of just taken back on, like, posting a lot on social media. I've been really just working on a new project right now. Okay. It's been on my heart to release AWOL 2 at this stage of life where I am. Just my understandings, just, my conviction is just the things I want to address and talk about. So right now I'm actually in production for a new project, which I'm super excited for.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's good.
How do you get the message out? So like a traditional band's pretty straightforward. Is there like a tour similar to that for like Christian Contemporary where you do a tour, or how do you perform? Like what's your classic stage? Yeah, so I mean it's very similar to the music business and design is the same, right? You want to connect with people. I mean, some of the venues might look different. It's sometimes it might be like a church event or somewhere where you want to push positivity. Definitely, and sometimes you might be at places where it's not exactly that. You're just delighting that space for that time. So, I mean, obviously, you got to release the music. You got to put it out there. So I work with the label right now with a distro deal, and they support all the music that I do, that I put out. And then, of course, you got different playlists and all of that stuff, and you get kind of supported on that end with platforms that support that type of music. So for this next project, I am, however, looking to add some duality to that, to be able to be in the Christian faith-based space and kind of like edge back in with some positivity to the R&B space.
and hopefully be able to connect with both worlds, just for the integrity of the music.
Is anybody out there that you actually want to work with?
Yeah, there's a ton of people that I want to work with.
I mean, you're at least somebody out. What's 2 or 3 that you think of right now?
2 or 3 right at the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, I'd love to work with Kiara Sheard. She's crazy. Like her vocal styles, me and Christelle, that's my wife. Anyway. You know what I'm saying? Me and Christelle, like we literally like just jump out our seats when she sings.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some producers out there that I've been kind of looking at. This is one set of producers. Their name is Black Tuxedo. I've been following them for a while. There's James Fauntleroy. He's a great songwriter and arranger. I gave you 3, so I'm just thinking like,
No, you keep on going.
Who else? Who else out there?
And what about like artists on like your album?
Artists on the album?
Yeah.
So you mean to list some of the artists that's on the project?
Like something that you want to be like featured with.
Yeah.
We're featured with? I like a lot of artists. I'm not always excited to have a ton of artists that I'm collaborating with, but I do like a lot of artists. On a personal project, I mean, I'd say, if Lecrae want to drop me a verse, that'd be cool. If Kirk Franklin want to, do a jam, that'd be.
Oh, that'd be really good.
That'd be nice.
You get a tour out of that one.
Travis Green is also too. I like his music too. We were just jamming Fred Hammond, so if Fred Hammond, want to pull up on the Kennis Clark track, that'd be amazing. But yeah, those are some of the people I would want to connect with. And I mean, there's tons of talent too around here as well. So if there's somebody that I can connect with and really enjoy their artistry, I would do a project with them.
So what's right now like? So what's your process like? I mean, you've had an evolution for the past 10 years, really, at least. Over your creation of your sound and your music. What is your process of figuring out like writing songs and like being inspired and like to final product?
So I think very early on, I did know that anything that I created, I wanted it to just feel different. I wanted it to feel good. I didn't want it to sound like anyone else's music. I feel like this guy's giving me something unique and to make sure I expand it as much as I can. So like right now, my process is if I'm hearing something or I'm hearing like a production that I might want to work on, I kind of want to see and kind of push the envelope a little bit to say, how different is this sound? How different, like for instance, the AWOL project, the initial project that I put out, it had some dance in it. It had EDM. It was EDM mixed with like, hip-hop and R&B with some pop in there too. So I do like to merge genres as I am creating. So I'm always looking for like that special feel and sound. Because it's easy to just do what you know. You know, but when working on a project, I always like to kind of like challenge myself a bit.
Yeah, you want to change up.
This could be interesting and new. So I always try to be at least innovative with the sounds.
So what would you say to other artists out there trying to get into the industry?
I'd say just be true to who you are. That might take some years to find that. It might take some time to cycle through different versions of yourself. But at each version, just be true to that. You know what I mean? If this is the type of sound you like to do, or the type of songs you like to create, then do that, because the people that are going to support you, they're gonna know when you're authentic. You know what I mean? For instance, like if I told you guys I was a country artist, you'd be like, yeah, sure.
I wouldn't invite you if you was a country artist. I don't do country music. I let everybody know that.
You're not a country artist. Just from what you've heard and things like that. That would be me trying to fit into
I'm very
a
much
box.
up my country.
I'm not into country music. Nothing against you. I'm just
No. Country music is greatly written. That's the thing. Like, country music is amazing, but if I told you that I did it, you wouldn't really believe it. It's not authentic to you. So I think that's been a thing too. It's just like just be who you are, be authentic to who you are. You know what I mean? Don't try to fit in these little boxes and pockets of art that you might want to get recognized in or anything like that because it's not going to be appreciated. But if you just can stay consistent to who you are, what feels true to you, coupled with my beliefs, I think now I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with the music, and I feel more connected to it. So for any artists out there that is working on new jams, just to keep that in mind as you are creating.
I think this is the Atlanta scene altogether, though. I think we're always looking to see what we can do to like get money off of stuff because we're seeing what's popular. So we go by latest trends, and then so we can try to get in some of the Atlanta clout as opposed to being the true authentic selves. Because I want them people like if you stay true to who you are, eventually whatever you're trying to gain, it's gonna come to you because it's promised to you.
Yeah. I mean, even just to speak a little to that. Like I said, you're not making a whole lot of money as an artist unless your streams are through the roof, unless you're like touring and doing some of that stuff. And that's why I created that song Motive, because, you also got to you got to watch out for that fine line between, doing this for the love of it or doing it because you just want the popularity or the money that might come from it. Because coming from secular, there's a formula to success in a sense. It takes a couple of things just to hit at the right time, and you're there. But crossing over to more faith-based, I had to understand like it's really about the integrity. It's really about again who you are, what your goals are, and then having like a music ministry kind of feel to what you're doing and a purpose for what you're doing. It's just about that connectivity to the people that are going to be listening. And if you can just understand that and be true to that and just doing it for the love of it. Of course, like music business is music business.
Yeah.
But, I'd rather be able to connect with 20 people on a song that they connect with and they're like, I really appreciate that versus just doing it just to, get a check somewhere. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. And I know we had like art throughout the history of time. Michelangelo had to cash a check.
Yeah.
You need to eat. You still got to eat. Is there kind of a close comparison to the secular music that you were familiar with out in LA to now, where the business aspect of I got to sound like this guy so I can get my record out, or is it easier or harder to be more authentic to yourself now that you've gone to more of the gospel side of things and Christian contemporary?
Well, I can speak in my experience. Sure. For me, it's like you said, you got to eat, right?
Yeah.
You just got to do that. In certain circles, you might want to sound something like this person to get to the next level in your career. However, it goes back to just creating art that has that electricity or that connectivity to how people might be feeling, or just being really authentic to that. And then a hit record is a hit record, or a record that's a great song is a great song. So it's really about putting out great music, and then of course having a team with you that can help to get that song out. So that's pretty much how the process is. I know for me now, you do happen to have those conversations about like numbers and things like that. You want your stuff to scale.
Yeah.
But you don't do it for the scale. You do it as true as you can, and then you try to just spread it the best you can.
So anything you want to tell everybody, like what you have outside of your new album that you have coming out? Any tours you have coming up, or?
No tours yet, but I'm really just focusing on creating this project to be something like I've never created before, to where it's undeniable. Once you hear it, you're jamming to it. It's fun. It's connective. It's connective. You can relate. So I just really want to focus on that first. And then, of course, I'd love to hop on a cool tour in a place where, I can promote the project and just let more people hear it. But right now, I'm just really focused on that at this time.
It's awesome, man, and I appreciate your music and the fact that you're kind of pushing boundaries, even in this space where, like you said before, you enter the not traditional gospel. You're like, well, I kind of have my own voice. Wants have the same message, but I can still use different sounds and be creative and be yourself, and it's something to admire. And I'm like, even listening to your music, you're like, this is your stuff. Someone said, "What's he sound like?" No, I don't know.
That's good.
I am.
That's good. Thank you.
So I appreciate that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and now what I like to ask all of my guests that's coming onto the show is like leave a word of encouragement to everybody that's listening in and people that's watching it. So what kind of word of encouragement would you tell to people in the industry and want to get into the industry and those that's listening to your music?
Yeah. Again, I'm really on this trip of just trying to be honest, just being honest. You know what I mean? And don't be fearful either. You know, like you have something that no one else has. That's true and unique to you. Antonio, you got it. New Jersey, you got it. People out there, you guys have that. And don't be afraid to share it with the world, because you never know who you might inspire or impact. And you should take that same energy everywhere you go.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. And we also, don't forget, for those watching and listening, KennisClark.com, just saying.
Yeah, check them out.
Pay bills, so, Spotify,
Strong like this. Get weak when I first on the scene and they call my name, I perk up. DJ got my music cranked up. Everybody screaming, angel fingers, bet they heaven hearing this. Then I walk off like I killed it. Eyes locked with a random person. Then that man approached me and said, I got one question for you. What's your motive? Can you tell me?